Welcome back, fellow enemies to the fire. This time we're here to talk about all the baddies. And no, we are not going to be objectifying women. We are going to talk about the horrible things that have happened in football this following week. DPG, what was bad to you? What was stinky and horrible?
So one of the things that stood out this weekend was having Captain America give up a penalty to a teammate. Kind of shows where he's at in the pecking order. But
he was the one who was. It was his to give away. So the pecking order, he gave up his spot.
Yeah, I mean, someone said, "Hey, no, I'm taking this penalty. Pulisic, get back to the line." So, I mean, that might be a sign that some European coaches don't trust American players to step up and deliver.
Do you think it was that? Do you think it was a coach's call or Pulisic's call?
Yeah, is Pulisic trying? Is some of the rumors true about him being a little not a prima donna, but like throwing his weight around a bit, and maybe he's trying to garner some goodwill amongst the team? Because he is the best player on the team.
He is the best player, but honestly, I hate players like that start acting prima donna once they're good. Like, I get it. There's people have egos, but there's players that they're just stone cold, man. They're just, they're just good, and you wouldn't even tell, that they're good. They're just like machines.
Do you guys know what's crazy to me? The fact that I agree, and I think that everybody else would agree with what you just said, that Christian Pulisic is AC Milan's best player, yet he gets no love in FIFA. Look at this. 85 for Rafael Leao. 86 for Theo Hernandez. 87 for Mignon. 82 for Kyle Walker. 84 for Tidiane Rendiers. 84 for Christian Pulisic. He's the best player on this stinking team.
So here's the thing. And here's
Toke,
kind of an issue that's going on.
Toke, you are right. He is world class.
So I always felt that Christian Pulisic was like the prototype player of what American players could be. Mm-hmm. He is the first.
He
not
is the
last.
Maybe this. Speaking of what you're saying about him being an American, maybe he's just displaying a little humility.
Well,
maybe it's just him it's like, hey, it's not my. I've been off these past few weeks. I'm still not right there yet. Take this penalty, but you better believe next week or the week after that, I'm fucking back.
Well, here's the thing, though.
Maybe it's one of those.
When players take penalties, they could take them because they're the assigned penalty taker, or a lot of times what coaches will do, they'll use that opportunity to let a guy that hasn't been doing good the past few weeks to kind of get his confidence back.
That's what I heard about this.
Well, who did he give it to? Did he give it to Jimenez?
I'd have to look it up, but that's actually because it was to a player that had been struggling lately. That's who took the penalty. So,
yeah, who scored the goal, right?
Yeah, they don't show that. Oh, right there it says,
Hammy.
I don't think that's
they've been boys for a hot minute.
I don't think that was that game. I think it was this game.
Oh,
it was this game versus Fiorentina.
Okay, well, either way,
sorry, it was a different
what's
game.
funny is there's times
Napoli.
you don't know, like there's crazy bets, like maybe because
Luka Jovic.
Huh?
He gave up the penalty to Jovic. That's what it was.
So here's the thing. Like I said before, Christian Pulisic is a prototype player of the American player. Like, I honestly think that we're not at that level where we can make demands. We're not. We're barely getting through. We barely just broke the glass ceiling with Christian Pulisic. I firmly believe that the next generation of American players, the bar is gonna be set even higher. Right? Now there's a possibility that you might have players that might become club legends in Europe. You might have like the proto Eric Cantona was for Manchester United type of player. That kind of situation.
We have that, Serginho Dest.
No, not crazy. All right, because at least Cantona threw a karate kick, but he was still scoring goals. Serginho Dest just catches red cards. That's all it is.
Pulisic throwing karate kicks, though.
Dude, I don't. I don't get this hand wringing about where we are. I mean, we have some talented guys. Like, there are talented Americans playing their craft everywhere. Like, It comes up literally every show, but I think it's one of the most misappreciated things in all of football. The Jordan Morris theorem. If a player is happy, so like Brendan Aronson is kind of like bossing up at Leeds, he can start making some demands, but like
Well,
he can't go to AC Milan and make any
All right.
demands. You know, it's all about where you are on the pecking order, where you are.
I agree with a lot of
So-
your ideas and some of this, but so when you talk about pressure, so there's outside pressures, there's inside pressure, and then you need both internal and exterior pressure to be able to formulate that diamond. Those conditions don't currently exist in
Not in the
America
MLS,
right now.
no.
It doesn't exist
No.
in America right now. I mean,
Nope.
Christian Pulisic is a miracle. There's miracle players that evolve, that come out of certain places. You know, like there's been players from Man United, that came out of like an island nation in the Caribbean, and they're the best player that's ever played for their nation. He just happens to get kind of lucky with genetics and also talent, mentality. There's all these things that play into it. But here's the fact of the matter that's up against the American player from the get-go is the culture is just not here. That inherently puts a pressure on success for soccer. Like,
oh wait, did we just creep into James's bad topic?
No, we're still talking about
here's
player
the thing.
talent.
Here's the thing, though.
The player talent is not going to be. The pressure cooker in America is there, but it is not to a point where it releases after a certain point in the American system, where that actually just ends up getting ramped up in the British system, where they have these tiers of systems of promotion relegation, where there's these ways where a player can work his way up through his football team, and then he gets noted and scouted by a different player, by a different team that was higher up, and he gets plucked over to them, and so thus begins their travels up and about. And that's how it happened for Jamie Vardy. That's how it happens for a lot of these players. And that conditions don't really exist in the pristine shape in America. Yes, there's college. Yes, there's rec leagues, but it's just not the same at pressure as promotion relegation, because hey, you're in college, you're getting a degree, you're studying for something. You're doing, it's not just about your sport typically. Like they say that only 1% of NCAA athletes, sports athletes, ever go on to play professional sport. It's a very small percentage that that you see playing in the March tournament that ever get drafted by the NBA. And so true is it in America, but that's the thing. In America, the conditions are set up for basketball. The conditions are set up for hockey, for football, for these other sports, baseball even, but it is not set up for the sport of the future, and will always be the sport of the future, soccer. And that's a joke, because America is just, we are held back by a few different things, and a lot of it has to do with the greenbacks and the money. But the U.S. At the core of it is the talent is not getting the best coaching. I'll talk about that later. The talent is not getting exposed to the best conditions to make them desiring this, and also sending up the rest of the team. The pressure's built up in these teams in Europe, where they can make it to the Champions League and get a good payout, a good bonus payout for their team, for their community. Well, it just doesn't exist here.
Oh, hold on.
James,
but to add on, what I was going to say is to add on to James' point. If you look at our starting USMNT roster, pick the starting 11, all those guys came through academies in Europe. Most of those guys. Pulisic, he went through the Dortmund Academy.
He did, but he always claims that he claims he was raised on AYOS or
out of Pennsylvania.
No, that's fine. But he went to the Dortmund Academy as a teenager, so
you're right.
He was facing kids that already been in the program since they were 8 years old. For example, we in this country we don't have the luxury of putting that kind of pressure on a kid. Like with promotion and relegation, because it is true what you said. That kind of pressure will teach players how to, certain things in at certain moments, and we don't have that. You can literally play in an MLS team and not have to face promotion and relegation at all. You're never gonna face that at all. The most you can probably do is win in the playoffs, and that's it.
Well, and I honestly. my thoughts have been known. I want promotion and relegation in this country, but I will say this. I think there are some things that don't get talked about when we talk about this. Like, I might sound really stupid, but geography wise, just functional, Luton is closer to London than Birmingham is to Chicago, if that makes sense, right? So Luton
Yeah.
is more like London than Birmingham is Chicago, meaning I feel like you can produce a small town team that can succeed in a smaller country like that with such ease of travel. With, you know what I'm saying? Like, I still feel like, you're going to stick teams, and I'm surprised Utah draws people. I guess maybe I'm an idiot, but like, I really don't. I foresee, even if we get pro rel here, your Sioux City, Iowa or whatever is going to still, all of their talent, that no one's ever going to get promoted. It's just going to be these 6 yo-yo teams, and everybody else is just going to continually just sell
But it's
sell
not
players.
that way for EPL. Like what you're saying,
It's not that way.
That's 6 yo-yo teams, right? It's not that way,
So,
which is incredible.
like, even when you talk about like youth setup, and obviously like in Europe, you hear stories how they do have a system where the club is, you're not going to pay the club to have the privilege to play. If the club thinks you're good enough, they're going to pay you to play, and they'll set you up in their residential
there's
program.
money there. Like, who?
There's money, yeah.
I find it strange. Like, I don't know. Like, I got out of college sports as soon as I wasn't college age. And to me, it seems weird, like, even now, to be like, let's go watch a bunch of 16-year-olds play for Fire too. Like, I can deal with the 1 or 2 17 and 19-year-old who's come up to play with the men here.
Mhm.
But like, it just starts feeling weird when you're watching kids. So like, but over there, that is industry. You're gonna
what
fill
you're
a stadium.
saying, and what you're saying by feeling weird is it feels not legitimate. It feels.
It just feels like, why would I care about this? Why am I putting any pressure on these people?
It loses the air of legitimacy and professionalism, because you're dealing with, the purest form of amateurism when you're dealing with 16, 17, 18-year-olds in general, and really the cream of the crop, 18, 19-year-olds that do break through. You could name it on the Chicago Fire, Orahel and Sam Williams, those times those players do break out. That's great, and it's fantastic and great for them, bully for them. But here's the other thing that's facing them. They're never going to be relegated. Sam Williams, Orgel, they're never going to feel the pressure of that. They will only ever feel the pressure of paycheck, of the paycheck, right? Which is the paycheck,
but like,
is a different, and the paycheck versus the promotion relegation, it's a different pressure. It really is, because it's just so much more than just your paycheck. It's everybody's paycheck is on the line.
Well, we'll go back to your basketball. Again, I'm pro rel, but
Right.
like, I'm playing devil's advocate here. To your point about basketball, yes, in the year of our Lord 2025, the 2 best players in basketball are like white guys from overseas. I get that. But
here's the thing, though.
By and large, we still produce the best talent in the world at the sport with no pro rel.
But that's.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. We're in a country that created basketball.
Right.
We're in a country that created
Dr.
football.
Naismith.
Then why don't we get afforded that same courtesy? We are not in the country that invented soccer.
We didn't. Yeah, exactly. We didn't invent soccer.
That's the thing.
I don't know.
That's what you guys, exactly what you're talking about. The sports here in general, like, the infrastructure exists where there's a way for these coaches and these players to move up a hierarchy that exists. But the hierarchy,
and that's in a college game.
The hierarchy in soccer is so fragmented and disjointed that it has made it very difficult for the American player, who is really ultra talented. I've played with some I know you guys maybe have seen or played with some ultra talented players, like, who if they were nurtured in a different way, they might have been able to play professionally or in a different. They could have gone on to do something, but the American system is so set up to this pay-to-play system. This pay-to-play, it's just, it
There's
really
too much money in it.
It's so much money
Way
in
too
it.
much money.
Where over in Europe, yeah, there's still money in it, but it's in a different way. They're in the business of finding talent. Where in America, it's the business of a parent paying for you to find the talent.
Exploiting anything.
You to find.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Parents paying for the coach to find the talent in the kid.
So here's the thing. Because obviously you guys know I put my kid in the AYSO. Next year I'm probably gonna put him. I mean, later on this year I'll probably put him in a club, in a soccer club. And I've been looking around. And some of the best youth setups, if you wanted to enroll your kid there, it's going to cost you a few $1,000s a year.
For what?
Just to have them,
For how many games?
That's the thing. It goes from like a whole winter, summer, fall. It's like a whole year. So
you could get them in other leagues for cheaper, and they can.
No, you could get them. Put it like this, and I don't want to throw out any names or anything like that. And I'm not. And where he's at now, and it was for the fall and for the spring, I only paid like $80, which and he got a whole uniform too out of it, and he play and they don't play games yet because they're still young, and but he has that experience where he's training once a week with the team, and they do scrimmages and whatnot and stuff like that. But I remember hearing stories of, like some of my, back in high school and even in college, and even people I used to work with, that they used to say, "Oh yeah, I wanted to play for this club team," when I was growing up, in Chicago or wherever. But when me and my dad went to go check it out, they wanted $1,500 for the whole year, and we couldn't afford it. So, and that's sad because that's how you miss out on a lot of players that are talented, that they just, a scout is not going to look at every player. And there's times where players might have a bad day, and those odds are neatly stacked against you.
Everything's stacked against you. That's why,
guys,
there needs to be more of a culture of fun.
I saw Duty play in college. Or I saw Duty play, not in college, but I saw Duty play before he came to the Fire. And at no point during the game did I all of a sudden go like, oh, there's an MLS player over there. Which is wild, because he was good, but he wasn't ever really that good in MLS. But really nice, awesome person, wonderful, great guy. But the talent in MLS, there's so many guys that are paying along the way, paying into the system. And then there's a lot of guys who are talented who don't have the means. And sometimes they do get left behind. And it's this, I don't know how you fix the system. I don't know how you, I don't know how you change it
you can't,
to get closer to what's going on in Europe.
Everything's against you in this country. The way we handle business, period, the way we monetize everything, the fact that all the systems are already set up differently for every other sport. If you want to
if you want a good example of what a player goes through, like I don't know if you guys have read Tim Howard's book.
No,
he does talk about.
I've been waiting to read what's his name, Bobby Warshaw's book. I've got it. I just haven't read it yet.
So he does talk about how growing up, he I remember part of the book he was talking about how some I guess a guy from the US, a coach from the MSMNT setup was running like a soccer club or clinic or whatever, and it was like $25 a week or something like that.
Oh my God.
But hold on. And Tim Howard goes and tries out, and I guess the guy is blown away, and and like the guy goes up to Tim Howard's mom like, hey, your son is really good. If let me train him, I think he has what it takes to go professional. And And then, Tim Howard's also excited. Yeah, I want to do it. But his mom kind of told him, like, we can't afford $25. And this guy's like, wait, what? No, don't worry about that. We'll do it for free.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that. And, he later on, he does become his coach in the U.S. M and teen soccer. So,
wow.
That's awesome.
you do get in situations where a player gets lucky.
Well, that coach
I'm
got
happy.
lucky too, because that coach put himself. He saw talent, and he's like, "No, I got." And the coach also got a lot out of him. He must have helped.
And then you think about that, and then you think about how many hundreds of thousands of players that can never be in that situation, even though they could be just as talented as Tim Howard.
So that